Before I even think about pulling an RV out of the driveway, there's 5 things I check every single time. One of them might save you thousands. Another one most people totally forget until it's too late. Let's talk about it. She said when. What's up, guys? We are getting ready to go on our first big trip of the year. So a few of you guys have asked me kind of what I like to do as far as a pre-trip. And I'm going to kind of show you what I do, things I look at, things I pay attention to, especially when we're going to go roughly 600 miles to Mississippi to shoot a couple of campgrounds that you may or may not see, because if they're great, we'll show you, and if they're not, well, we just want to act like we ever went there. I'm going to start at the front of the camper, and I am going to work my way back. So Val is graciously being my camera girl.
Camera lady.
Camera lady, she said. So anyway, we're going to go to the front. Something that you should always be looking at when you're working on your camper is whether you've got the factory hitch or you upgraded the hitch. You have these, if you look at mine, you can see these red marks on this plate. So that was the factory mark. Now my line drawing abilities aren't that great, but I did put marks on this for when I put these bolts in, just to make sure I can kind of visually inspect. You could retorque them every once in a while, that wouldn't hurt anything, but I'm not going to do that. I just like to look at them, make sure my washer's like everybody in the neighborhood. Sherry's outside. Hey, Sherry. Sherry, our neighbor, is awesome. She brought us a myrtle wood stem vase from Oregon. And I wonder if she's gonna make this turn. So I look at these marks on this all the time. Every time I get fuel, stop, any of that good junk, I always look. Now, a lot of people ask me about my Gen Y hitch and if I still like it, and I love my Gen Y hitch. The only real downfall to the Gen Y is it's a little harder to hook up, but with my new truck, which is getting its oil changed, not here in the driveway, but it has a camera that looks in the bed, which when I put the bed cover on it, you can't see the ball now, but me and Valerie get it on there just as easy, and we're not fighting, so it helps. But anyway, the Gen Y hitch, get this on eTrailer, believe it or not, but they are handy. I like it because I get my bed back, and it does improve the ride, so I've been pretty pleased with that. So that is a quick visual inspection I like to do. Now I look at that every time I get fuel, every time I do anything around my camper, I will look at that. Now one thing I will say, and this is something you guys all need to think about, the tow. My Dodge sets a little bit higher. I don't necessarily think my Dodge sits higher, but I think the ball is taller in that gooseneck fifth wheel prep package. And I think, and I've got to pay attention to it, but I think my camper sits a little nose high, a little high in the front. It's not quite level. One thing when you pull your campers and stuff, and if I move this up a hole, I will definitely video that for you. But I'm thinking about moving my hitch up a hole to lower the nose of my camper. I'm just not sure yet. I'm gonna pull it one more time and really kind of make that decision. But that's something that you guys, when you pull your campers, and most people, and when I see most people, will never adjust that hitch from the factory. And that, you know, you just need to make sure that you're pulling your camper level. You'll get a way better towing experience. It's easier on your components, on your axles, your frames, and it's just something that you guys should pay attention to. Now, I am not a towing expert. As you guys all know, I do stuff that I probably shouldn't do, but just pull your trailer level. I see guys going down the road all the time, especially on travel trailers. They'll be real nose high or real nose low, and you're just asking for trouble. You're putting extra heat, and all that on whatever axle you got loaded, so make sure you do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to check the torque on my lug nuts. Now, that is not a visual inspection. It's something you need to do. I've got my tools out, so you guys have to wait on me to find all my crap. So I just got it out and threw it out here on what I like to refer to as my garage floor, because I do a lot of projects on this piece of blacktop on my back. So it's laying on my shop floor where it should be. If you don't have a good torque wrench, and this is not a good torque wrench, this is a Hobo Freight Special, but just get you a torque wrench. I got one that I keep in the camper. This is the one I keep in the house. Know what your torque specs are on your wheels. Periodically check them. I check mine every time we do a long trip. Typically, you would think that lug nuts shouldn't come loose, especially after you've been towing it a while, but they still will work themselves loose, especially with these aluminum wheels and stuff now. So just give her a good torque. So this is just, you know, making sure they're tight. And when you hear your wrench pop like that, you know it's the torque. So these are all pretty tight. So, and I'm gonna not make you suffer through me doing all of this on all my wheels, but you get the idea. I think I started with that one. Sometimes if you get these that are loose, like this one, if you can just get in there and twist on it, that will take that rattle out. The right way to fix this is to take your wheel off, which I'm not going to do because that's more work than I want to do today, and just turn it a hair and slide it back on there and it'll pinch it down. But if you notice some rattling, and this thing's dirty, I'm gonna wash it before we leave, but just give it a good snug twist, and there you go. Something else that I want to point out that everybody needs to do is check your air pressure in your tires. Now the big thing on that is these are rated for 110 PSI cold. So when I put these on, had these put on January up in Shipshewana, Indiana, which is like right next to the North Pole. And it was like, I don't know, it was like negative 170 degrees outside, and they aired them up to 110. So you want to make sure that it's got the right amount of air in it. Chances are these will probably have too much air in them because they aired them up cold, like really cold, like colder than your ice and your margarita cold. And so I'm gonna check my air pressure on all 4 of these, make sure they're right. So also, one thing you'll want to do is get you a good set of tire pressure monitor dealios. They make one that I seen, somebody had them, and they screw on, and it has the chuck on them, like through it, where you don't have to take them off. I have to take mine on and off, but when you take them off, one thing I would recommend is like, go get you some Windex, spray them down good, make sure you ain't got a bubble. Because if you got bubbles, you're leaking air. And leaking air is no bueno. So this is a El Cheapo Harbor Freight, possibly Home Depot air chuck thing. And I like this one because it has a little valve there where I can let air out of a tire. I do have a Milwaukee air compressor that I leave in the camper. But let's see how much air pressure I got. According to that, I don't have any. It's because this is in the way. This little jam nut. Let's try this again. So I am setting at a little over 110 pounds. So 110 is what I'm gonna drop to. I like to run mine a little bit low just because they will expand as you get them hot. So I like to run them like 105 or just under 110. I don't know. I don't know if you should do that or not. That's just kind of how I think about it because, well, honestly, you don't want them to get too much air in them because it's like a big old bouncy balloon and you don't want it to explode on you. Jam these back up. Gonna do the next one. Now, one thing I will say when I'm looking at these and I'm doing all this, one thing I'm also paying attention to is that there's no grease. There's almost 120 pounds in that one. One thing I'm also looking at is on these hubs, and this is something you should do every time you get fuel, is look for grease on these or anywhere like or slung out on your wheels, and it will stick out like a sore thumb. The reason you want to pay attention to it, if you ever see grease on this, it's a good sign that you've got a wheel bearing that's about to fail. So it's easier to work on that at the truck stop or the fuel stop or wherever you're at than try to mess with it on this side of the road. I should get to blow my hair like they do in the movies. Now I can go back through and take they send you this little stupid tool with this set on here that jams them nuts, but honestly it's dumb. So, all right, other side. She asked, can I throw myself under the RV like that? Which I probably could. It'd be an interesting trip to the ER though. What happened to you? Well, I'm an idiot. You know that guy, Tom Cruise, regardless of what you think of him, he's still doing Mission Impossibles and he's like 75 years old. I mean, holy cow. My little air compressor over there is it's struggling. I'm gonna have to get my Milwaukee out because these want more air than my little cheapy Craftsman air compressor wants to put up. Yeah, that's about 108. It's about 108. And Valerie asked what it needed to be again. It calls for 110 cold, so you know before you go down the road. I like to run them just a hair low, like a couple pounds. And I don't know, it's and don't take this as like the gospel. This is just things that happen inside Jarrett's small brain. I figure it's going to expand as they get hot, so it just gives it a little more room to expand, if you will. Look, you got to run a TPS if you're going to travel very far. If you're going from not very far, I guess you can get away with not having one. But if you're going to run like we do, it's like the cheapest insurance you can buy. And I don't tell how many times that thing already bailed us out since we've been back with a smaller camper. The one time in Florida.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I get you one. Seriously. And you know where you can buy those things? eTrailer. This video is sponsored by eTrailer, and we want to say great thanks to our partners eTrailer. Now, these are all things that we have on our camper that you can get at eTrailer, and these are things that I've had since before we partnered with eTrailer. So, Gen Y hitch. Actually, when I got my Gen Y hitch and I had some issues with it, I actually reached out to eTrailer, talked to a guy. He gave me the right part number while I was trying to get a hold of Ashley over there at Gen Y. So, you can get a Gen Y hitch or any kind of other hitch for your fifth wheel or whatever you have there as well. Also, things that you can get: tire pressure monitoring systems. You can get the X chocks between the wheels. Those are highly recommended, especially if you don't have a 6-point auto leveling. I love those things because they take out the rock out of the camper. Really makes it have a little better night's sleep, especially when you got kids and they like to get up and use the bathroom 15 times a night. The bike rack on the back, also an eTrailer product. The Valterra valves, eTrailer product. The Valterra transporter tubes is an eTrailer product. And here's the great thing about eTrailer. Not only can you get these awesome products from me, and they have really fast shipping. So we're in Kentucky. If I order something on Monday, it's typically at my doorstep on Wednesday, which is really awesome that it shows up that quick. They also have American-based customer service. Now, what I like about the customer service thing is when you get done talking to whoever you're talking to, they send you their email and their direct phone number. How awesome is that? If you have a question or something gets messed up, you can go right back to that person. It's nice to have a company that actually cares about their customers, gives you good service, and they'll support you after the sale, and they'll just answer questions for you if you just have questions. Can't recommend these guys enough. Based in good old Missouri, which is the show me state. And so if you're looking for something on eTrailer.com, I guess they're kind of showing you something. So maybe that's why they moved there, so they're in the show me state. I don't know. You tell me. Big thanks to eTrailer. Check out the link in the description. Go spend lots of money. Get your stuff you need for your camper. Get out there, have a good time. Back to the video. So I'm gonna give you item 4 and 5. It's a kind of a combo thing, and this is something that, you know, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do, but you need to do this a couple of times a year. It's kind of like walking your roof. You know, I highly recommend walking your roof twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. I'm always up there doing something, so I'm on my roof quite a bit, but I'm always looking around like lap seams and things like that. But as far as pre-trip goes, let's talk about something that people don't pay attention to. Give me the people. As I'm looking at my bolts up here, making sure everything's tight and looks good. Also looking at my springs and making sure they all look good. I'm looking at my U-bolts here, making sure they're all still have a nut on them. Making sure my axles look like they're all wired up good. I'm inspecting my axle, making sure that they all look good. And I can see both sides from one spot, so you don't have to climb up in front and back, but I'm just kind of giving it like a real quick look over. I'm also looking for grease on these plates right here, making sure there's no grease dripping out or on the inside of the wheels, making sure I'm not losing a wheel bearing. One thing that I wish Venture did is made these wet bolts so you could grease them, and at some point I'll probably change those out to a grease, like a bolt with a grease fitting on it, just so I can keep them greased. Because you don't want these things to, you don't want this to seize up here, because that just puts extra wear and tear on your springs and you'll have a broken spring quicker. When I'm looking underneath the camper, I'm also inspecting like my underbelly stuff. I'm trying to think of what it's called. I was drawing a blank. Making sure it's everywhere it's supposed to be. Nothing crazy. Don't see any big bulges that would indicate like a water leak. Front axle looks good. Front springs all look good. And there's a good old American-made Dexter axle. And everything looks good. All my connections over there on that wire look like they're supposed to be. Front wire also connected like it's supposed to be. So those are things I'm kind of looking at. You know, I'm not necessarily like taking my brake drums apart and checking all that out, but I'm just looking for glaring deficiencies. I mean, it's not, when you travel with these things, it's not when you have a problem, or if you have a problem. Oh, this looks good back here too. But it's when you have a problem, and you want to make sure that You try to mitigate as much of that as you possibly can ahead of time. A pre-trip doesn't have to be like this massive thing. It can be something simple. Honestly, if I'd have done this without videoing it, taking my time and kind of going through it, it would have been something I'd have done in 10 minutes, maybe. But for the simple fact that I wanted to show you guys, just kind of help you stay safe on the road, I wanted to show you kind of what I do. All right, guys, this is Jarrett's question and answer session. So 2 things. 1, if you like these, let us know in the comments. We'll do more of them as we do kind of how-to projects. And 2, if you have stuff for Valerie, let us know. Valerie can do a question and answer as well. Second thing, this is how I do it. This is not me telling you how to do it. This is not advice. This is just my train of thought and how I go through things from the years of camping and working on stuff, and how I try to keep maintenance issues at home and not on the road. So just there. So just getting that out of the way. So the first question, how often do I really need to torque my hitch bolts? So that one is kind of a loaded question. So for me, on the 5th wheel, I do it once a year. In the spring, torque them. I got them marked. I visually inspect those marks, make sure they haven't spun. On a travel trailer, I would do it about every 2 or 3 months, just because we travel a lot. And the beating and banging, the way those travel trailers, those hitches kind of set at an angle that puts weight on the torsion bar, I've had them kind of slip up and take weight off the trailer. It's caused issues there. So when I noticed I was having issues like that, I did mine about every 2, maybe 3 months. So that's my 2 things there. Next question is about lug nuts. Do I need a torque wrench, or is hand tightening enough? 100% get a torque wrench. Torque them down to spec, make sure you're doing it right. You can always look in your owner's manual. Every trailer is a little bit different, every axle is a little different. Make sure you're looking through your owner's manual and get the correct torque specs. Now, if you can't find it in your owner's manual, call the manufacturer. You can try the dealer. They may or may not know. If they give you, well, you know, call the manufacturer, get the right answer. Second part to that question is, how do I know if my lug nuts need to be retorqued after a trip? You cannot visually tell if they need to be torqued. Every long trip we do, but I will go in, torque my lug nuts before I leave. Now when I come, I don't check them on the way home, I just do it before I leave. And that's just kind of good enough for Jarrett. Probably should check them before I come home, but for me, I check them when I go. Now, if I change a tire and have a flat tire like we did on Talona Ridge, I'll check them 2 or 3 times, just because you want that lug nut to seat on the rim. Just extra caution. Next questions are on air pressure. Should I check my air pressures when the tires are hot or cold? This is an easy one. Cold. It says on the side of the tire, my tire is 110 PSI cold. It doesn't say 120 hot, it just says 110 cold. So always check your tires cold. What does cold mean? Doesn't mean you have to check them in the winter. It just means you don't need them going down the road and getting hot. So if it's 100 degrees outside and you've been sitting here and your camper hasn't moved in 5 days, that is considered cold. Just get that out of the way. Even though it's hot and sucks outside, your tires are still considered cold before you check them. What is the best way to monitor tire pressure while driving? TPMS system. The one I got is not expensive. Matter of fact, my father-in-law recommended it to me. Same one he has. It's like 75 bucks. So go to eTrailer. You can find all kinds of tire pressure monitoring systems there. Don't have to have anything real elaborate. Mine just has a little receiver that sits on my dash. Nothing fancy, solar charged. I don't ever plug in, it's leaving on my dash, charges up. It does the job, and it has bailed me out more than once. The great thing about a TPMS, if you notice you have a tire going low, gives you a chance to get off the side of the road, get your tire fixed. I've done that twice now with the same TPMS system. So just get you one. If you want to spend a lot of money and get something fancy, get something fancy. I don't care what you get, just get something. Now, if you don't need, the only way I would say you don't need a TPMS system is if you drag your camper 30 miles in the spring out to the lake, drop it off, and you drag it 30 miles back to your driveway at the end of the season. Goes to seals and bearings. How can I tell if my bearings need to be repacked or replaced? So you should have a tag inside your camper cabinet somewhere. It will give you maintenance intervals. So just refer to that on how often you repack them. Mine is every 5,000 miles. So at the end of this year, at the end of this camping season, like when it gets cold and we're kind of like slowing down camping, I will have mine repacked. Now I won't take mine to an RV place. We have a great little trailer place here in town that sells trailers. I will make an appointment with them, have them repack them, just because that's what they do. And it's an easier service. I can call them, make an appointment. I can be in and out in an hour. That's how I like to do it. So replaced, if you start to see grease on your wheel, it means your bearing is probably going bad. It was making your seal fail. And the reason I say that is The way your axle shaft works, it's kind of like a tapered shaft. So it starts big, gets small, has a washer and nut, and those bearings set on that taper shaft, and when you put that nut on it, it squeezes it together and holds that wheel true. So it's true, like it should do this or this. And if it does this or this just a little bit, it get a vibration, your seal will fail, and that is a good indication that you got a bearing going bad. Because that seal is just a little thin piece of rubber. You get vibration in it, it rips that rubber, it slings grease. That's a good indication that your bearings are bad. So that's just the easiest way to check. What should I look for inspecting seals? So this kind of goes with the question I just asked. It's simple, grease on your wheel. Grease on your wheel is always a telltale. Because that joker just running down the road at however fast you're going, just chugging along like Thomas the Train, thought he could, and it starts slinging grease, and you'll get grease all over your wheel. That's the easiest thing to tell. Honestly, guys, when you get fuel, do a lap around your camper. You can ask Valerie, I do this every time we get fuel. I do a lap around. I got a little temperature gun. I take the temperature of the wheels, the brake drums. If one's getting hotter than the other, I kind of know I got an issue. If they're all pretty similar, not too big of a deal. So just, that's how I do it, not how you should do it. Actually, you probably should do it that way, but you know, hey, this is how I do it. This is how Jarrett does it, not a how-to. Last question goes with axles and springs. How do I inspect leaf springs or axles for damages? Kind of like I did in the video. Just a visual inspection is really all you need to do. You're looking for rust in weird places. You're looking for cracks. You can kind of tell. Just get, you know, if you get under there and something looks amiss, then something might be amiss. So then just get a hold of someone who knows what's going on. Again, trailer places are really good for axle springs and bearings. Don't have to go back to an RV place, because if you go back to a like a dealer, the chances are you're going to be there for a hot minute. If you go to a trailer place, they don't want your big old camper sitting in the way, taking up their space. They're going to get you in, get you out. So just word of advice, trust me on that one. Do I need a mechanic to inspect my axles? Not really. One thing that, you know, like when I walk around my camper and I'm doing my lap around and I'm getting fuel, is I'm looking at everything. And you mess with your camper, you kind of know where stuff is supposed to be and how things look. And if you see something looking wrong, that's probably when you want to get a mechanic involved. But a quick visual inspection, you'll kind of know what you got going on. If you're going down the road and your camper starts doing trailering differently, as far as the way it moves or the way it handles, or it's just being weird, that's a good time to get back there and inspect and see what you got going on. So that's my question and answer session for this go around.
I have a question.
Valerie has a question.
Who the heck put the rut in our yard behind you?
I don't know the guy's name, Danny maybe, but we just had storms.
Yeah.
And that's the worst we got, is that tree in our backyard. Well, I had a tree in the front yard too. But he decided, in his infinite wisdom, it just rained like 4 inches. He's gonna back out in the yard next to the tree. And I get the why he did it. But I just wish he would have thought it through a little more.
Just as you were talking, I'm like, didn't notice that.
At the time we're shooting this video, it is about 48 hours from the tornadoes that went through Missouri, I think Arkansas maybe, and Kentucky, and then London and Somerset. And I'm sure other places got hit hard, but those are the ones that I've paid attention to the most. It's like 90 miles from us, maybe 100. Yeah, it sucks, man. And there's a lot of people that lost lives over that, and that is awful. And if you went through that or you're dealing with that, and just, you know, our prayers and thoughts are with you guys. And so we had minimum damage. I had a tree that fell over that I'm surprised has lasted as long as it has. I've been waiting for this guy to fall over for about a year. I lost a pear tree in the front yard, and honestly, that's like the damage we got. Frankie set out in it because we just got home from Mississippi, and I honestly, as hard as that wind blew here, I kind of thought it might have moved a little bit or something, but she sat there like she was supposed to. Ooh, and I want to show you one other thing real quick, just so you guys know that if you put your brackets on your running boards correctly, the Gen Y, I said Gen X, the Gen Y shows like it's supposed to. So I did get that straightened out. And if you're wondering, yes, the brackets in the frame also are on correctly now. You're welcome for that video. Good thing you couldn't read my mind, because I would have been like, I want to say Yosemite Sam. I think he's the one that ran around and, you know, they always kind of like showed the squiggly marks when he was thinking. So anyway, All right, guys, thanks for watching. You know, if you had storm damage or something, you guys, you know, we're just praying for you. I know that doesn't mean a lot, but you know, our hearts go out to you. The storms have been so bad in Kentucky, we're actually going to put a shelter in our garage floor, and the reason being is because when we were looking at the storm damage in London and Somerset, there was a lot of just foundations left. Like there was a couple of slab houses, you could see the slab, and nothing else was there. So we're just going to put our storms in, our shelter in the garage floor. You guys that rode it out in your campers, holy cow, y'all brave. And it just makes you feel small and humbled anytime something like that goes through. But anyway, we love you guys, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Let me know if this was helpful, and if you think I'm an idiot, keep those to yourself.